what I want to do is I want to share and open up the lid on this, the way that the NFL is finding these players and what they're doing. I don't know that you guys realize this, but let me walk through this. There have been 164 player fines issued through week 6, totaling nearly $2 million in fines for the players, no, not doing something off the field, no, not wearing the incorrect socks, no, not putting tape on their face mask, no, not wearing the right uniform. For actually playing the game of football, they are getting fined for various different things. Now, I don't know if you realize this. So look at this first category of infractions, the unnecessary roughness. Look at that face mask. There have been 23 different fines for face masking, totaling over $200,000. There have been a total of unnecessary roughness fines of 105 of these fines. Now, what I want to point out to you is the number that I added. Now, I built this spreadsheet. I came up with all this stuff last night when some of you guys didn't realize this was going on. What I want you to realize is look at that column off to the far right. It says flagged in games. There have only been 55 unnecessary roughness penalties issued this year, flags thrown for unnecessary roughness. Yet almost double that has been fined by the NFL. And what they do is they go back a week after the games on a Saturday during college football. So it's a weekend, people aren't paying attention, and it's during college football, and they issue these fines. So they're sweeping it under the rug. They're fining players for various different things, such as leg whips, such as a late hit, such as a low block, such as a face mask. Okay. It is an absolute joke. Here's a couple great examples. You know, the hip drop tackle. They wanted to come out and get this out of the game. We just saw the hip drop tackle take Chris Godwin, put him on IR, break his ankle, dislocate the ankle, and that's costing him tons of time and a long recovery. Did they throw a penalty on that play? No, but they came out today and said that that was actually a penalty. It should have been a penalty for a hip drop. It met the criteria for a hip drop tackle. And so now they're going to fine the guy. But how are they getting this out of the game if they're not actually calling penalties? They're just coming back after the fact and fining these players. They're fining players, I'm going to show a replay in a second, for face masks that don't get called in the games, but they just come back later and fine them. They fine, remember, if you guys were watching football back, maybe it was 2020, where they came out with this, lowering your helmet to initiate contact with the crown of your helmet. And they wanted to get that out of the game. They wanted guys tackle properly. So they came up with this unnecessary roughness penalty for use of helmet. Do they ever call that? Basically, no, they never call that. And yet you can see here that there's been a total of 19 different fines that have been levied so far this year through week 6 based upon use of the helmet. And I've got the tape because I know exactly when every single one of these fines, the plays that the fines were levied for, I went back and looked, and most of these don't have penalties at all. Almost 90% of those use of helmet ones that I checked do not have a penalty associated with it. It is just they go back and look at the tape and they decide to fine the player. If they're doing this, they need to call a penalty during the game. If it's not worthy of being called a penalty during the game, the NFL coming back and levying these fines is absolutely absurd. We've got this unsportsmanlike conduct down here where we've got the gestures, different taunts. Most of these aren't fined at all. I understand this violent gesture where the guys are trying to use the guns, the finger guns and stuff. They're trying to get that out of the game. There's been 12 such fines for those. But you've got all these taunting fines, 18 of these different penalties. The league is hardly throwing flags on these in real time. I've got a couple of them that are just so absurd. I had to go back and watch the all 22 late last night to try to identify where some of these fines were. Absolutely ridiculous. And look at the unsportsmanlike penalties. There have been 17 unsportsmanlike penalties through week 6, but 40 different fines for these penalties. It's absurd the way that they are fining these. I want you to watch a video from a week 6 play where this was not called face masking, and the guy got fined, I want to say either $9,000 or $14,000 after the fact for this face mask, which was not called during the game. Why don't you roll that, Matt?
Second half, May on 1st and 10. And Gibson was there. Mario Edwards corrals him, gain of a yard, and put him at the 22.
Well, Jacobs gets beat quickly to the inside, and that's what allows this to happen. But watch the face mask that's missed by the officials.
Significant.
I don't know how you missed that. I mean, the helmet completely turned, the head turned all the way around. But a no call.
Ripped his head almost clear off, Antonio Gibson. The crowd saw it on the replay. Everybody in the stadium clearly saw it on the replay. The announcer saw it on the replay before the next snap. It was not called in the game. Yet that defensive player gets fined, and the refs get to ref a game the very next week. It's absurd what's going on with the state of NFL officiating, and it's absurd that they are allowed to levy these fines against these players after the fact when their own refs are not calling them during the game.